Could you show me a little bit about some of the features on the board?
Starting from the top of the console, we have our meters, LED meters that you'll notice are stereo. So if you have a stereo channel in Pro Tools, it'll come up with both sides. We have a recording indicator, so if your channel's in record or record ready, it'll show you. And the edit light, so that'll show you which channel you're editing your plugin on when we get to that later.
Great.
Below that, we have our 8 multi-track buses, which of course, as we were talking about, can be used for surround mixing as well as multi-track busing. You can also make them pre-fade, and you can apply the pan pot to those buses.
Great.
Below that, we have our dynamics assignment panel, and you can assign them to the input or the output of the channel, just like on a K-series, J-series, everything in SSL history, and you can apply number 1 or number 2.
Great.
Moving down the channel strip, we have our mic pre gain pot, same mic pre as the K-series. We have our line trim, plus or minus 20 dB, and our low cut filter here. Next to these knobs, we have our input selectors and phantom power. You can put your pad on your microphone input, you apply your high impedance button so you can have your DI, etc. on the front end. Following that is the same exact EQ as the K-series, same topology, same everything, G-series curve, E-series curve. And within that is the insert control. So you can have your external insert gear. You can have your microphone preamp routed out your insert send. And again, it's a balanced insert, send and return. And you can make it pre or post EQ, just like on an SSL on the big console.
Right, yeah.
The top and bottom EQs are shelving, as normal on an SSL, and you have the bell button if you want to modify that.
Great.
Below that is the stereo Q,
Right.
just like on a big SSL, and a couple of mono aux sends. And on each of them, there's an alternate. So normally you're going to be on QA. And if you push the QB button down here, you'll be on QB instead. Not both at the same time, one or the other.
Right.
So it's an either-or situation.
All right, it's just multiple mixes.
Yes. And on the 2 aux sends, 2 mono aux sends, 1 and 2, and you have an alternate for effects 3 and 4. And just like on the K-series, you have your effects bus, your effects reassigned. So you can use your effects knobs as a small fader in effect to send up to your multi-track buses. So you gain effectively 8 more aux sends in the mix.
Sure.
You can also use that to send your level out of your direct output. So if you want using your fader to go to your multi-track buses,
Oh, that's great.
you can use your effects send to go to your direct output.
All right, small fader kind of thing.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So you effectively get another fader in the mix.
Right.
And then you have your record and mix bus assignments down here, and the pan pot that goes with them.
Great.
Below this, from here to here, we have our digital controls. This is where we leave the analog domain and enter the digital domain. So we have our DAW controlling rotary encoders. We have our scribble strips, exactly. Solo and cut for within Pro Tools. Select button for selecting which channel you're going to edit your plugin in. Or you can select channels just like you would in Pro Tools if you want to select things to group or to modify.
Right.
And it's solo and cut buttons for your large fader. So basically these two are for your small fader when you're using that channel function I was showing you before.
That's good. So it's double control there of the solo and cut.
Yes.
That's great.
And then the faders are faders. These are SSL faders. But as I was saying before, there is no analog signal ever going through these faders. They're digitally controlling MDACs within the analog channels when you're in analog focus mode, and they're just controlling Pro Tools when you're in DAW focus mode.
So it's got motorized faders?
Oh yes, yeah, very high resolution faders. In fact, down to I think it's 0.002 dB when you're writing into Pro Tools.
Oh, that's crazy.
So long as the DAW can keep up with you, you're going to have extremely high resolution faders.
That's great.
And so the fader even looks like an SSL fader. You see the automation lights here. It works the same, as long as, again, the DAW can keep up with you, then you have the same functionality as you would on a 9K.
Right.
So you can put your faders into write. Right now they're in read, just like on an SSL. On a big SSL you have green for fader playback. If you want to put it in touch write, you can come over here to the little TFT screen and you go into automation modes. And within automation modes, you'll see all your, of course, automation modes from your DAW. So if I want to put a channel into touch write, for example, I can hold down the touch write and put the put the fader into touch right.
Great.
And as with all shortcuts, you can grab your option button over here, for example, and put everybody into touch right.
Great. So
So
all the modifier keys of your Macintosh keyboard come up on the board?
Yep, everything's right here. You have your Shift, Option, Control, Alt. So it'll work with a PC or a Mac. The console certainly doesn't care. So, if we push play, now we can sit down and mix. And I think I've done a little bit of mixing, so we'll see some faders move around. But you can grab a fader and do your rides. And now we're in snapback, auto touch. So they'll snap back. And if I hit play again, we can see the faders moving around. So just like a real console, the automation works exactly like a real console. So in the center section, since we're in the analog domain, we have analog metering on our mix buses.
Excellent.
Very important. We also have LED meters for whatever's coming out of the monitor outputs,
Right.
Full surround, and track buses 1 through 8, and all of the cue and effects buses.
Oh, that's nice.
Below the metering, we have oscillator and pink noise generator that can go out of any buses or monitor outputs. We have our talkback section, full talkback mic, listen mics, etc., just like on a big SSL console. And the added bonus of the talkback compressor, which everyone's hip to on the G series.
The
We have that.
fifth compressor, huh?
Yes. So we have our stereo bus compressor straight out of the G series console. We have our 2-channel dynamic section, compressor limiter and gate. We have our bus master outputs and our cue and effects master outputs. Below that, we have 4 stereo effects returns. So you can use them for reverb returns, more stems, no EQ, but full access to the stereo buses and Q sends. Q sends are right here. Just like on a K series, you can pick up pretty much any bus on the console, and there's patch points available if you have a patch bay to get into these. And they have a level and an AFL on the front panel as well. The TFT screen is used for pretty much everything else. You can control your automation modes from Pro Tools, your automation enables, all of your edit tools, anything that you would hit on the keyboard as a shortcut, you can have in this screen. You can also use the screen to control your plugins. The screen is also used for SSL Total Recall within the console, and it will save it back to your host computer as a MIDI dump. So it takes a snapshot of all of the channels, all the knobs, all the buttons on the channel, so you can recall the whole deal. The other major thing we have on the front panel in the center section is our monitor controls. Of course, volume pot, dim, cut, just like you'd have on a big console. And this knob is actually multifunctional. It controls the dim level, our monitor B level. Like on the big SSLs, you have a big pot and a little pot for the different speakers. Here, it's just a question of pushing a button. We have actually there's a headphone amp built into the console, and you can control that from here. And you can pick your speakers from over here. Normally you're on the main 5.1 speakers. We also have, of course, the alternate 5.1s, Mini A and Mini B, total of 4 sets of speakers.
Great.
Over here we have our monitoring control as to what's coming out the speakers. So we can listen to any of the buses. We have external A and B, just like on a 9K. External A as all the surround inputs. So that's how you'd monitor your surround mixes, or your 5.1 outputs from your DVD player, SACD, etc. External B is all your stereo returns, CD player, tuner, whatnot. And you can also, just like on a K series, you can sum them all together. If you need to listen to a multitude of stems, if you're doing film, you can bring back your dialogue stem, your effects stem, etc. while you're mixing the music on here. So if you're a music guy, film guy, you can just turn off the dialogue, as simple as that. There's also, just like on any analog console, you have your solo clear from the center section.
Global type control?
Yes, that's just for the analog section only, not for Pro Tools. There's also a down mix over here, so if you're doing 5.1, you can do a quick stereo to fold down mix. We also have our master fader over here for the 2 stereo buses, and this control panel here will determine what the fader is doing and what we're doing to the different mix buses, to the record bus and the mix bus. As I was saying before,